We have a crime problem. I wish the rise that we're seeing in crime in America today were some sort of aberration or a blip. My best judgment, having been involved in criminal law enforcement for many years, is that this is a dangerous, permanent trend. We will deploy the talents and abilities of the Department of Justice in the most effective way possible to confront this rise in crime.
Jefferson Beauregard Sessions became the nation's 84th Attorney General on Thursday and immediately joined in on the Trump fear-mongering about America, falsely claiming that violent crime is rising. It's not. Sessions will lead more than 113,000 Department of Justice employees and launch what Donald Trump calls, quote, a new era of justice that emphasizes law and order. But what about voting rights, something that's also on the DOJ portfolio? Joining me now is investigative reporter Greg Palast and Judith Browne Dianis, executive director of the Advancement Project. Thank you both for being here. I want to just quickly touch on the crime piece before we move on to voting rights, since that's where we open. So, Judith, this idea that crime is on the rise, not true. The murder is lower than it's been in 47 years. You can see the chart there. That's the direction that the murder rate is going in. And crime overall is down, in part because the economy is pretty good. What do you make of this constant fear-mongering by the Trump White House, insisting that the country is in constant crime turmoil and that there's terrorism around every corner? What do you think they're trying to do?
Yeah, Joy, this is dangerous alternative facts that are being presented, and this is really about making a stronger police state that bears down on communities of color, Muslim people, LGBTQ communities, that what we should expect out of this Department of Justice is an Attorney General who really does step up to make sure that law enforcement has more money, that people who are protesting get prosecuted, that dissent is squelched, but that also that communities of color will be feeling the law and order. While white communities get protect and serve, black and brown communities will be under attack. I mean, you know, this is going to be terror on our communities. And unfortunately, they're relying on these false facts. And for him to say that this is a permanent trend, this is the same language that led to the war on drugs. So we need to understand increased incarceration rates, and we also know that at the end of the day, there's a private prison industry waiting to actually cage people that are victims of this new war on drugs.
And you know, Greg, the other half of what Sessions can be expected to do, because it's, you know, I think people who are in Black Lives Matter and other movements that protest should be concerned about what the Justice Department's going to look like. But the other thing that happened this week is that you had Donald Trump do a meeting with senators and once again make this false claim about voter fraud. He starts again saying essentially that in New Hampshire, he would have won New Hampshire had it not been for voter fraud. So talk a little bit about what the ascension of Jefferson Sessions could mean in terms of the right to vote.
That's his first, second, and third job, is to purge the voter rolls of non-Trumpers, basically people of color. It's real simple. Donald Trump has laid this claim down that 3 million people swam the Rio Grande, illegal aliens, to vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, you might just think it's a big joke and that the guy's off his rocker and talking through his comb over. The thing is that Jeff Sessions is the guy who put in a bill to require voters to prove they're citizens. Now, you say, well, yeah, of course you should be a citizen to vote. Go ahead. Prove you're a citizen. You have to have either naturalization papers, a passport. Okay, how many homies have passports? How many Latinos just came back from their Alps vacation skiing with a passport or your original birth certificate? Go find that. Basically, Trump's supporter, Chris Kobach, who came up with this idea of proving your citizenship, knocked out almost every single voter in Kansas under the age of 30 who tried to register because they could not prove they were citizens. The courts overturned the Kansas decision. Sessions is back. He's going to push with Trump a law, and he's going to prove that there are supposedly illegal aliens. And I saw this happen under George W. Bush, where David Iglesias and other federal prosecutors are told, go and arrest illegal aliens voting, and if you can't find any, and I'm not making this up, the federal prosecutor told me he was told by the White House then, find people, arrest them, and you can let them go later.
And then let them go later. And Judith, you know, this is, I think, the sort of big red flag with Jeff Sessions, because he does have a long history of being for things like voter ID laws, the harshest possible measures to keep people from voting. What is the community and people, the civil rights community, going to do about this?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to, first of all, be enforcing the Voting Rights Act ourselves, and we're going to have to litigate more. We also know that we're going to have to be watching them at every step and making sure that they are not overreaching and over-prosecuting people for fake voter fraud. I mean, look, Joy, this is a person who is no friend of voting rights or civil rights, for that matter. This is a person who said that the Voting Rights Act was intrusive. This is a person who, when the Supreme Court struck down part of the Voting Rights Act, he said that was a win for the South, like he was a Confederate general. And so we will be watching him. We will be litigating. If we have to bring cases against the Department of Justice, we will have to do that. But at every inch, we have to protect voters, because now we know we have no friend at the Department of Justice.
And if you recall Coretta Scott King's 1986 letter about Jeff Sessions when he was trying to become a federal judge, she accused him of using his awesome powers of his office when he was a prosecutor in Alabama in a shabby attempt to intimidate and frighten elderly black voters. And for this reprehensible conduct, he should not be rewarded for the federal judgeship. He has prosecuted civil rights workers for helping people register to vote.
Right. He's been part of this whole big voter fraud scam. It is just a cover. I call it the hysteria factory. They get hysterical about voter fraud, and then they come up with some solution. Donald Trump said, just repeated, that 1 million people are illegally registered in 2 states and voting twice.
Including his kids.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, we don't find any of these double voters, but they removed, in this election, they removed in Republican states almost 1 million voters on these fake grounds of people voting twice. And now we're going to see this go into law. Basically, Jeff Sessions, when he was Attorney General of Alabama, he arrested civil rights workers on charges of voter fraud and stabbed elderly black people, put them on a bus, and sent them in a 400-mile round-trip session to making them testify before a grand jury. Pure voter intimidation aimed at voters of color. Worst Jim Crow tactics, and he's actually proud of that. He doesn't even say, gee, I'm sorry, that was another era. He's proud of it.
It's what he was there to do, and I think people should really look sharp, because what he's there to do in Washington might not be so great for voters of color. Greg Palast and Judith Browne Dianis, thank you very much. We'll do this again.
Thank you.
And coming up next, I'm here in Los Angeles, California, the heart of the resistance. More on that after the break.